Support for The Kyle Hyman Show comes from Notre Dame Federal Credit Union and listeners like you who donate to Redeemer Radio, your local Catholic radio station.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kyle Hyman.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jason Schiffley from Bishop Dwenger High School. This is February 1st, and this is episode 611.
I'm Kyle Hyman here at Bishop Dwenger for our Catholic Schools Week broadcast. We've been all over the diocese at different elementary schools, and now we're at our winning high school, which is Bishop Dwenger, and so excited to be here and to learn more about the school, hear from the students, hear from the staff. Mr. Schiffley is the principal here, and so thank you for having us here, first of all.
We're very honored to have you, Kyle. Thank you for coming.
And you invited a special guest as well?
We have the newest administrator here, but she's no stranger. It's Mrs. Lisa Polhamus.
Hello.
And you serve in what capacity?
I teach 2 periods, and then I am an assistant principal for the remainder of the day and evenings. And
what 2 classes are you teaching?
I teach genetics, human genetics.
Which is fascinating.
It is. I love it.
I don't imagine that's a very popular class amongst high schools in general. I mean, are even public schools doing genetics classes?
There's a few.
Okay.
We started the course back in 1990.
Huh.
And we had a department chair at the time that had a vision, and she wanted to add 4 courses at the time, and genetics was one of them, and it was only a semester. And it is now a full-year course, and it's such a large, growing subject matter that it is hard to get all of the material in a year's time. There were very few schools in the state that offered it back in 1990. I think that's grown, but it's still, I usually get the reaction that I just got from you when I tell someone that that's what I teach, because it's not a typical high school course. So, but it is wonderful, and the fact that when we're talking about biomedical technology, we can incorporate our faith and our morals and ethics. And last year we had the bishop come in and we posed some questions to him, and he really even gave those a lot of thought. And I think we caught him off guard a little bit. I loved it. I think he was surprised by how well thought out the questions were from the kids and the depth that we get in that class. So.
Yeah, how much of it is science versus ethics?
Well, the ethics is just woven in and out of it continually. I say often to the kids and to our parents on back to school night that I could only teach this class in a Catholic school because I couldn't teach it without infusing our faith and morals into it.
Yeah, because I could see that being a purely ethics class.
Yes,
I could see it being a purely science class, but so much more powerful for it to be combined.
It is. It is. When the course was starting out, Father Mark Gertner was a big help.
Sure.
He would come in and talk, and he would give me some resources. And Jessica Hayes here in the building, one of our religion teachers, she has offered me some materials as well. So,
Well, Mr. Schiffley, as we kind of are kicking off this hour, what are some of the things happening here at Bishop Dwenger? I know there's a recent press release that came out last weekend about some expansion that is potentially happening?
We did a press release, and it's about the stadium. We are right now currently in the planning stages. Nothing is set in stone. I just want to clarify that. But we were approached by a benefactor, actually 2 benefactors, one to build a stadium, and it will continually be called Shields Field in honor of the Shields family, who have given so much time and support financially over the 50-plus years. And they were one of the founding families of this school as well, the Shields family. So the other benefactor is approaching us to purchase the old Holiday 6 Theater. I've been a principal since 2010. I would drive by that place, and it's been sitting idle, I think, since 2002.
Yeah.
You know, it's so close in proximity to Dwenger, and so many of our activities are off campus anyway, okay? And case in point, the football games, of course, are over at Concordia at Zollner Stadium. So I always thought, why don't we why can't we just go down there and change the inside of the theater and make it into something that we can use? I'm all about repurposing old buildings.
Yeah.
I hate to see that tore down. The right person heard about it, and he approached me and he said, well, what will it take to get the theater, and what are your ideas? So we got a rendering, we sent it to the benefactor, and he is willing to go ahead and purchase the building upon approval, of course, with the diocese. But things are looking pretty good. Now, it may sit idle for a year or two, but we have to raise the money, Kyle, to make it happen. Just like going back to the stadium. It's all in the planning stages right now. Again, a different benefactor, by the way, approached us about what can we do to make it our own, bring back the community to campus here at Bishop Dwenger High School. Zoner has served us for a long time, and we're very grateful for our Lutheran brothers and sisters over at Concordia for allowing us to go over there for our games. And we've been paying a lease to use that. There's an annual lease to use their field and their tennis courts. We will continually use the tennis courts, by the way, in the future, because we don't have any other tennis courts. But that field out front, we have a beautiful all-turf field that's been out there now for 3 years. It's been underneath our noses all this time, Kyle, that we actually have the space to put large enough bleachers on the home side where the press box is currently, to put up a new press box. And then on the other side, the visitor side, which would be parallel to North Clinton Street, it's large enough to put up several hundred seats, maybe 600 or 700 seats for visitors. So it's all planning, definitely a lot of fundraising. The benefactors bring in a nice offer, to give to us to make this happen. But there's a lot of fundraising involved on our part too. We have a lot of skin in the game as well. And Mrs. Burns, Katie Burns, our development director, myself, we have a lot to do. A lot of foot pounding and knocking on doors and calls to make it possible. Nothing set in stone.
Yeah.
The press release actually did mention that there are some things that we still have to do upon approval and fundraising. But we are very excited because it's not just about football, Kyle. We have soccer games, and it'd be so nice to have an evening soccer game now and have evening lacrosse games and rugby games and all under the lights, not just the football games. And our marching band would love to use, because a lot of times they have to wait till after the athletic practices are over.
Sure.
And they march in the fall, right? So they have to wait till after football is over. They would love to go out and use the field to practice, and mark off their steps. Now I'm speaking biasly because my son is in marching band. It's also another way for our kids to practice what we preach. They need to practice their faith through athletics, through the performing arts, to express what God has given them, to show the talents that God has given them in His glory. And I don't know if maybe I'm speaking candidly here, or I'm off on a thin branch by saying this, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no voucher money that's being used, to fund these two big projects. Yeah. I get excited about the future. I really do. It's a wonderful school, and we're growing.
Yeah. Recently completed the chapel and now expanding.
Yes, chapel is first priority. Absolutely. And we have a beautiful chapel.
It is.
And I'm never going to get tired of saying it and showing it off. We're very, very proud of our chapel, and it is being used every single period of every day. We have kids in there. We have classes that go, Kyle, and we're very proud of it. Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much. I know we're going to hear from some students here in a little bit and then hear from some more faculty here at Bishop Dwenger for our Catholic Schools Week broadcast on the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio. This is Kyle Hyman. I am here at Bishop Dwenger for our Catholic Schools Week broadcast, one of our winning schools, the high school that got the most votes for our competition. So excited to highlight some of the things going on here. We've got 3 of our seniors here. And so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and name. We've already said that you're a senior here at Bishop Dwenger, but some of the activities that you're involved with here at the school.
I'm Joshua Skipper. I was a cross-country captain, and I work for the school newspaper, and have done some work for Today's Catholic in the past couple months, so I'm pretty excited about that.
I did cross-country in high school, so that's awesome. All right.
Hi, I'm Mary Simcox. I'm involved in the speech team here at Bishop Dwenger, several clubs, including the Apologetics Club, which I'm the president of.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's great. The Rotary Club, Duncan Club we have here. I'm trying to think of other ones. But
Duncan Club?
Decade Club.
Club.
We pray a decade of the Rosary before lunch in the chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and several others, but those are some of the few.
Okay.
I'm Thomas Kale. I was also a captain for cross country. I also do a few other clubs. I'm also in Latin Club, and then also Decade Club and Rotary Club as well.
Can you give me a Latin phrase?
Sic Deus didixit mundum, which is for God so loved the world.
Oh, that's good. All right. Well, Josh, you just got back from the March for Life, and Bishop Dwenger had the distinct privilege of being the first people in line at the March for Life. How many people
Yes,
were there?
we did.
Have you heard any estimates or anything?
I've heard estimates between 400 and 700,000, so that's a big range, but a lot of people.
And you were the first people who were holding the
Yes.
banner, marching
Yes.
at that. What was that like?
It was really cool. It's like you have the force of the whole like pro-life movement behind you, like 400 to 700,000 people standing behind you, and you're leading all of those people, and it was pretty cool. And I even like had the honor of covering it for Today's Catholic. So I was up in the press section in front of Dwenger. So that was really cool.
Interesting. Yeah, because you write for
Yeah.
the Today's
Yes, I
Catholic.
do.
How did you get into doing that?
Well, I was on their website one day, and I've always been interested in journalism, and I scrolled down and it said apply to become a writer, and I applied, and here I am now.
So how many articles do you think you've written?
I've written somewhere around 12 so far.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So have you been to the March for Life before?
This was my second year.
All right. So how does this compare to the previous?
Well, last year we had to stand and wait for the crowd to get moving, and that was really hard on the feet, not moving that whole time. But this year, it got done pretty quick because we were at the front. But leading instead of following was a whole different experience, because it's like you know why you're doing it if you're leading it instead of just following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So if you're going to lead something, you know why you believe it, and you know everything that goes behind it. So like being pro-life, you know why we believe conception is the beginning of life, opposed to just following what everyone else does. And I'm not saying that people who were behind us were just following,
Right.
It's like kind of like symbolic that we know what we believe, and we're going to lead this movement throughout or towards the Supreme Court building.
Yeah. Why do you think it's important to participate in the March for Life?
Well, we had a Skype interview with Senator Todd Young before the march, and he said that marches actually like change politicians' minds. It's like, these are the people that I represent. I need to be listening to these people. And he said it kind of scares them into listening to us. And he also cited other marches that have changed policies, like the Civil Rights March in the 60s.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And all these other marches that have changed stuff. So if we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people marching for the protection of the unborn, then that is really great.
Yeah. Mary and Tommy, did you both go to the march as well?
Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
yes.
It was amazing.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
Like Josh said, it was an amazing experience to lead the march. I myself was holding one of the flags and saw Josh running around with cameras, or with a camera. And it was so cool to, as Josh said, to know that you had hundreds of thousands of people behind you supporting everything that you support. Because I think in today's secular society, a lot of members of the pro-life movement are led to believe that we are such an extreme minority in our country, that everyone is in favor of the opposing side. But I think when we come to the March for Life and seeing so many youth, so many people in favor of protecting life in the United States, we see that we're not alone in this effort, and that we have so many behind us and so many who are fighting for the rights of the unborn, just as we are.
Now, did you take turns carrying the banner, or did two people carry the banner the whole time?
I think it was, what college was?
Princeton University was holding the banner,
Oh,
but they
okay.
didn't have quite enough people because it's a very, very large banner.
Yeah.
So we had a few Bishop Dwenger juniors actually who got to hold the banner,
good.
and the seniors held the 40 flags.
All right. And then, Mary, you are going to be going to the Holy Land. This doesn't necessarily tie in with Bishop Dwenger, but
Yeah.
it's still a cool experience. What's that going to be like?
Oh, yeah. So a couple of my friends and I have been planning a trip to the Holy Land for the past year or so. So we're doing a 2-week pilgrimage in the Holy Land, seeing all of the beautiful places where Christ himself walked on this earth. It's just been an amazing experience to plan for this. And so love prayers and intentions to take with me to the pilgrimage. And it's been a real blessing to be able to be given this opportunity. Yeah.
Have you studied the locations of the Holy Land at school at all?
Yeah, in some of our theology classes, we go through the Gospels. Actually, in one of my classes last semester, Honors Catholic Social Teaching, we actually had an assignment where we read through the entire book of Luke and had to do a little reflection on each chapter. And it really, we hear the Gospels every Sunday during Mass, but I think hearing them and reading through the entire Gospel is really an amazing experience because you really see the progression of Christ's life on earth and his ministry, and knowing that I'll be able to walk in those same places as Christ did is so cool.
So when you come back, are you going to be giving a class report, like teach a class on everything that you saw, a little slideshow, a little travelogue?
Not necessarily, but I could at this point. I'm very excited about all the places that I'll be
Yeah,
going.
it's such a great opportunity. What did you say there? The Honors
Catholic social teaching, yeah.
Tell me about that class.
It was amazing. So senior year, we are allowed to pick different theology classes that are semester long. And so you can take regular classes or you can take honors classes. And first semester, you have a choice between the dignity classes, so dignity of women and dignity of men, and honors Catholic social teaching. And so I decided to take both dignity of women and honors Catholic social teaching. And they were both amazing classes. Honors Catholic social teaching taught by Mrs. Colleen Baxter. Shout out to her. She's awesome. It was just an amazing class, and learning about the social teachings of the Catholic Church that I think a lot of times Catholics are kind of wary to talk about because they do seem more controversial. But it's,
Can you give an example?
Talking a lot about workers' rights, and so not only talking about rights of individuals and how government should be morally run, but as well as protecting life and protecting the family. And so we see that the Catholic Church's teachings cross all political lines that we have in the United States. And it's no longer restricted to conservatism or liberalism, but rather the Catholic Church does not define itself by politics. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see that as Catholics, we shouldn't restrict ourselves to one way of thinking or another.
I love it. That's awesome. So this is part of your discussion-based classes, which I think even the title of that sounds very intriguing. Tommy, can you tell me more about the discussion-based classes?
Yeah. So last semester, I took a class called Dignity of Men, which is, so there's Dignity of Men, Dignity of Women. Obviously, women take the Dignity of Women, men take Dignity of Men.
What year is that usually?
It's usually seniors.
Okay. All
seniors take that. It's first semester class.
Okay.
So that's the first semester class, and through Dignity of Men, every reading, every unit just kind of covers some aspect of manhood. So, like, for example, when we started getting to the end of our semester, we started getting into how to live as a man in the modern world. We were reading through a book by Father Larry Richards called Be a Man.
Sure.
It was a very good book. We weren't able to finish it though because we were just kind of got short on time with the semester and everything like that. But we did get about halfway through the book. Really good book. And just basically what we had to do is we'd go home every night, we'd read a chapter of that book, and then we come back into class and have kind of a seminar or discussion about it. So yeah, it was really good. And then this semester, the second semester that seniors can take for discussion-based classes is Great Catholic Thinkers. So we kind of go through a little history of different people who were very influential in the church. So for example, right now we're reading about St. Augustine, and we're reading in his Confessions. So that's what we're doing right now.
So how does the discussion-based class compare to a regular class? How are they different?
Well, grading, for example, is just is interesting because like a regular class, obviously you'd have like homework and quizzes and tests and all that kind of stuff. But for discussion-based classes, it's all kind of about participation and trying to get your grade in that. But like obviously that's not as important, just not focusing on your grade, but more what you get out of it. Every day is gonna be led by a different student, so we're all kind of sharing our ideas and everything like that, and trying to figure things out about our Catholic faith and trying to get more closer to the truth.
Awesome. Well, You mentioned so many different clubs and things that are going on here. What are some of the highlights that you see as things that are nurturing the Catholic faith in the students, and maybe some ways that you're reaching out to the community as well?
I think one kind of small thing, but it's really impactful, is our Decade Club. So every day before lunch, we have 3 different lunch periods. So a lunch, you go before lunch and we go into the chapel and we pray a decade of the rosary. It's really simple, but when I started doing it, I felt a change in my faith life. Like I felt like I was doing more than just the bare minimum for my faith. And it's such a small thing. It's like 5 minutes long, but it really makes an impact on your faith life.
In what way?
I think like if you're like stressed about a test or having anxiety about anything else, it just like takes it all away. It's like amazing. And by the time we get to lunch, you don't even have to wait in line at lunch. So.
Win-win situation, right?
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Good. Mary, what's one of your favorite things here?
I love Decade Club, like Josh said. But one of the clubs here at Bishop Dwenger that I have a particular fondness to is the Apologetics Club. I've been involved for all 4 years of my high school career, and it's a relatively new club. It was started, I want to say 5-6 years ago. And I've been the president of the club for about 2 years now, and it's a really amazing club, the Apologetics Club. So we study how to defend the Catholic Church, and it's which is what apologetics is, and it's really, really cool to learn more about the truth of the Catholic Church and also learn strategies and techniques in order to how to explain that to others. Because in our society, it's so difficult to stand up against what our secular society tells us is good or is truth, and show what Christ reveals through Scripture and sacred tradition to be truly good, not only for our relationship with Christ, but for our relationships with one another.
So over the course of 4 years of being involved with this club, do you feel like you've hit on all of the debated topics and you're pretty competent in being able to explain your faith to other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered a good majority of them. You know, there's always, I suppose, 1 or 2 that we may miss. But all the hot button issues are always ones that we gravitate towards, especially during the beginning of the year when we're very excited. It's very fruitful because we have ways in which to approach these conversations and know when someone confronts us about certain issues that we believe in, and when others know that we're Catholic, how to approach them with love and how to respond to their questions with compassion and with understanding of their point of view, while also sharing the truth that we know to be evident through our faith. Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. I want you guys to be like regulars on the show. This is so good. I've learned so much. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be having more students, faculty coming on to talk about the work here at Bishop Dwenger for our Catholic Schools Week broadcast. We've got more coming up right here on the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
You're listening to Redeemer Radio's special coverage of Catholic Schools Week 2019. Highlighting local Catholic schools voted for by you, our listeners. Thanks to the Bagel Station in Fort Wayne for providing breakfast for the Bishop Dwenger teachers and staff this morning as part of their prize for winning our Catholic Schools Week contest. And our thanks to all teachers who have dedicated their lives to the education of our young people.
This is Kyle Hyman. I am here at Bishop Dwenger for our Catholic Schools Week broadcast, our winning high school, and I'm joined by 3 of the faculty here at Bishop Dwenger. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do here at the school?
My name is Joe Garcia, and I teach theology. Some of my specific classes I teach are on the dignity and vocation of men, great Catholic thinkers, which both of those are honors classes for our seniors. I also teach sacraments for juniors, ecclesiology to sophomores, and I'm also an English teacher here.
There's a class on sacraments, or are these students that are preparing for sacraments?
A whole semester class studying the sacraments.
Oh, good.
My name is Nancy York. I am the service coordinator here at Bishop Dwenger, which just means I have the school as giving their service 10 hours each semester. So that's what I do in pastoral ministry here.
So do you plan service projects, service opportunities? And
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm the contact with the community agency to be sure that they will take our saints for a service and then make up that list and urge our saints to do a certain kind of service to the needy, the underserved, and then also to any population they wish to serve.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Jason Garrett. I am the pastoral minister here, as well as being the head football coach and the head baseball coach.
And congratulations on your big victory.
Oh, thank you.
In the fall.
Thank you.
State champions.
State champions.
For those that don't know.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So going to the theology classes, dignity of men. You only have men in the classroom.
Right.
And so what are some of the things that you talk about in that class?
It's primarily focused around Pope John Paul II's theology of the body. We start with a thorough study of that, and we look specifically at what it means to be created as male and female. But then we get into looking at really good models of Catholic masculinity in the history of the church to give these young men, role models to look up to. And so it's really a good survey course for the seniors. It's a seminar type course where there's reading they need to do every night and come to class ready to discuss. And they write reflection papers, so it definitely has to become personal for them. But I think there's a lot of good history in the church's tradition about what it really means to be created as male and female. And we've got such a huge contribution from Pope John Paul II on that theology. So all the boys that take that class seem to really be grateful for that study.
So I imagine, even though the topic is on the dignity of men, part of understanding that is also recognizing the dignity of women and how we respect women as men. So I imagine it's not only talking about men in the classroom.
Right. We also read Mulieris Dignitatem, the Pope's letter to women, to thoroughly understand it. To know what it means to be a man, you have to understand what it means to be created female as well.
Sure. So what are some of the main topics, either in that class or any of the other theology classes, that really gets a discussion going and people really get either excited about or they're confused about and they're able to learn a lot? What's one of those kind of key topics?
Well, I think just living in the culture that we do today, where there's so much confusion about just these issues about how we're called to live chaste lives in this world with the culture pushing so much, immorality. Sometimes the kids get into debates where when we try to assert something like a man is called to be the spiritual leader of his household. Some people maybe want to debate that, like, why can't that be done as well by the mother in the family? But it's worth talking about, and really, that call to step up as a man and as a leader for the family. I think it's a good challenge for a lot of these young men to actually take action and not just be so passive.
So since you brought that up, this is probably a 15-minute class or something like that, but what's the short answer on why this is the man's job, if you will?
It's just part of that initiative that God created us as men, to be the one to give love, whereas a woman is more naturally the one who receives the love. It's even written into our anatomy. Yeah. And so that's the long and short of it, really.
All right, Mrs. York, what are some of the service opportunities that are available for the students here?
One of the things that the Saints do is go down to the Yule Wilson Center. It is an after-school program for grade school and middle school children in the city, and we just go to tutor and to read to them, and they read to us to help raise those literacy levels. Okay. Another thing is to gather in the chapel on Thursday morning. We used to go to the abortion clinic to pray for those that are in the industry and for the unborn. Now we no longer need to do that since those clinics are closed here in the territory, but we will form in the chapel for Rosary. We call it Rosary for Life. One other thing, one of the theology classes for the Andre Bissett group, and that is a group of students who are willing to work vegetables. And one of the person who helps us to do that for St. Mary's Soup Kitchen is Mr. John Martin, who happened just to walk in. Yes. So if I can introduce him.
Welcome to the show. Stick a microphone in front of you and put you on the spot. So what does the group do?
I bring celery or green beans or bell peppers, and we dice and slice. We cut up vegetables, which will be used for soup at the soup kitchen. And then I take them all back to the kitchen and wash them off and put them in bags to freeze or pans in the cooler to use in the coming days, and wash the dishes. And I'm the bargain vegetable shopper, so this was a plot that Mrs. York and Mrs. Wheeler dreamt up a couple years ago, and it works well. It's a lot of fun.
And we are grateful to Mr. Martin for his ability to bring to our students the chance to help make how many meals?
Usually we fix 120 gallons of soup each day, Monday through Friday, in 2 60-gallon kettles. Sometimes more on the weekend if we need more.
That is awesome. All right. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing here, too. And Mr. Garrett, there's about a million different things that I could talk to you about here, but since you did just win the state champion with the football team, what is it about athletics here at Bishop Dwenger that you think fits in with the mission of being a Catholic institution?
Well, that's a great question. And, listening to Joe speak about the Dignity of Men class and the service that Mrs. York has spoke about, I think athletics is a part of that. We're trying our best to form the whole person here. They're blessed to play sports, and in this case, either it be football or baseball. But before that, who they are as young men. Back to St. John Paul II, that, athletics or sport is a school of life. And I think that's what we try to, live out here in our athletics. Adversity, what's required in terms of unity and teamwork, and then toughness as well. I think, toughness goes beyond, the certain stigma, I guess, out there, what it means to be tough, to having a mental toughness, being disciplined, self-control, and the list of virtues goes on and on. So it's just a school of life that extends beyond our classrooms. And it's great to see that, when you're trying to do things that way, you can still have success as the world measures success, I guess, in terms of championships. It was certainly wonderful, and we were blessed to win a state championship. But the young men, and I think the process that we went through, those are the things they'll carry with them far beyond, a ring.
Well, such a great school, and just one of our great Catholic schools here in the diocese, and so blessed to learn more about Bishop Dwenger here. Coming up, we've got a couple of teachers that are literally a couple, and we'll hear from them and hit some of their story right here on the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio. This is Kyle Hyman. I am here at Bishop Dwenger, our winning high school from our Catholic Schools competition, and we're celebrating Catholic Schools Week here with the principal, Mr. Schiffley. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Kyle.
And you brought along with you a couple guests.
Oh, absolutely. I can't think of a better 1-2 punch than Mrs. Mindy Cochran and Mr. Don Cochran. Mindy is our school psychologist, or what would you call yourself? Mental health counselor. I think maybe I use her as a psychologist, and then Mr. Cochran is our band director. They are fairly new to our school. I think a couple years they've been with us now, and they've made a huge impact in the short time that they've been here. And I just thought it'd be apropos to have them on during Catholic Schools Week to talk about their impact that they've had on Bishop Dwenger and also their faith life. They live the faith, and I just wanted them to take this time to share their story and how we ended up getting them, and we're very blessed to have them here.
Yeah, you weren't always teaching here at Bishop Dwenger, so what brought you to Bishop Dwenger?
Well, I'm from Fort Wayne, and I moved away in 98 to teach at Springs Valley High School in French Lick. And I knew Mindy before from when we went to school together, but she lived in the same county in a little town called Paoli.
Okay.
And it was one of my first marching band practices. I was out on the field, and I turned around and looked, and Mindy was sitting up in the stands. And of course, I knew her from when we were in college. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" She goes, "I live here. What are you doing here?" And then that night we went on our first date to the French Lick Springs Resort. We got a nice dinner that night, and that was our first date.
So then, are you teaching together down there?
No, I did community mental health. And being a small town, and I'm from Paoli, his band booster president, went to high school with my dad, who was the local pharmacist at that time. She had come in to see my dad, and then she was like, Mindy needs to meet our new band director. And so my dad had called my mom, and my mom had told me about it when I got home from work. And I was like, no, I don't need to go down and bother him at practice. And my mom was like, well, you should. It's a small town. It's hard to meet new people. So I went to his practice, and we met there. We met again. They're on a practice field, and we're still on a practice field together.
So what brought you back to Fort Wayne and to be a part of Bishop Dwenger?
Well, actually, it was a few years ago, and my brother was sick, and we were driving up here a lot. And I remember Mindy saying, if anything opens up, maybe this might be a time to consider a move back home, because I told my dad I would only be gone 1 year, and it turned out to be 18 years. And I was looking online, and I saw a posting for Bishop Dwenger, and I think it had actually expired or was about to expire. I was pretty fortunate. Most of my siblings went to school here, and a lot of my family went here, and I have a lot of family that still attend Bishop Dwenger. So.
Well, and obviously well respected by the community here as the Light of Learning Award recipient this year. Mr. Schiffley, would you, I know he's being modest here, not sharing all the details here, but why was he your award recipient this year?
Don definitely had my vote, and I'm a bit biased because my son, who's an 8th grader at St. Jude's, was in the marching band. Don opened up marching band to junior high kids, and he had a big following there and that grade level, but he's pumping life back into our marching band program, our concert band. He has a lot of great ideas. He's a grant writer, so he's actually gotten us money as well. Really everything that you dream of in a band director, and also a colleague. I look at Don and Mindy both as friends. They're just not an employee of Bishop Dwenger High School. So again, I confess, I nominated him. He had a vote from me, but he had tons more votes. He had many more votes from other faculty members and parents and students. And one thing here that I wrote down, actually, this is a quote from one of the nomination forms. They said, Mr. Cochran's care and compassion can be felt by the parents and students, and that is how he is able to get much done. Countless parent volunteers and friends of the program have given much of their time to help him rebuild the program. They want to help. And it goes on to saying that, you can tell his care, he cares about the program. He cares about the kids. They feel it. It's not just something that, it's just something floating in the air. They can actually see it. And I see it with Mindy as well. Mindy cares about our kids. Yeah. She's busy down here. And we're very fortunate. I hear, especially this week, you hear a lot of, we're blessed to have this, we're blessed to have that. It's a true and genuine statement and sentiment that we are blessed to have both Mindy and Don. Mindy is busy. We have a full-time mental health counselor in her being here, and kids come even in Catholic schools with a lot of baggage, and we love them to death. But we're here to guide them holistically. You hear that a lot, holistic learning. So it's not just about the math and the English and the science. It's about getting them back on the right path. And Mindy does a great job, and she loves her faith. So there's always a spin, as it should be, with the Catholic faith, and she's well versed in the Catholic faith, as is Don. And so I'm going to use this word again. We're blessed to have them both.
Yeah. People struggling with mental health issues, and I feel like if I had to guess, maybe you'd say differently, it's gotten worse over the years, and maybe social media building up anxiety, depression, things like that. What are some of the resources and tools that you're able to use as a Catholic resource for people?
Well, I think you really touched on a lot of the issues that's happening with social media, and we see our children growing up faster than probably what we did, and knowing more about what's out there than what we did because of social media. It becomes a struggle with them about their faith, taking on extra stressors, anxiety about things at home that really parents need to worry about. So we see a lot of those issues that they bring it here. And sometimes the smallest thing can just really touch them, and they have a hard time coping. And so we really try to work on identifying what is going on, and then trying to figure out what we can do together as a team, as a Dwenger family, how we can help our students and help the families. Because a lot of times the students think that maybe they're all alone in what's going on, but really we try to tell them you're not alone, that we're here for you. We're going to help you through this. And we like to include the parents as well, because it becomes a family issue. So we try to work on coping skills. We work well with the teachers here and the guidance department. If they're involved in extracurricular activities, I like to reach out to their coaches or directors and trying to keep everybody on the same page of what can we do to support this student more in a positive manner. As well as the teachers, like I said, we work with them. They're great. They all understand that we're human and that we deal with things in our life that we can't control. And our teachers have been wonderful in saying, you know what, let's work on this later, but let's focus on something else first, or teachers will reach out and they'll say, I'm concerned about so-and-so. Have you met with this student before? Some of them I have and some of them I haven't. So sometimes our teachers, because of the hours they spend with our students, they may see something going on before we do, or even before their own families do. So we really try to work together as a family here at Dwenger of what can we do to help this student who's obviously struggling with something. And maybe that is teaching them some new skills, new coping skills, reaching out to their parishes, maybe their youth ministers or their priest, and trying to involve the faith as well.
Well, you guys are obviously an exceptional couple, but I think at the same time, a sample of the teachers and faculty that are in our Catholic school systems that care about the kids. I'm sure you made sacrifices working in a mental health firm and working in the public school. I'm sure there's sacrifices coming to a Catholic school. So thank you for doing that, and all of our teachers that make sacrifices for our students.
I just want to say before we end this segment that when we interviewed Don, he said, well, I'm going to have to send this back to my wife. I can't, I think we had a good feeling after we interviewed him and met him for the first time. But he said, well, I'm going to ask my wife to see if she can come up and look around the place. And so I knew I had to sell Mindy. And it just so happened that we actually were in need of a mental health counselor. We had a vacancy with that position as well. In fact, the pastoral ministry was actually picking up the slack. Mr. Garrett and Mrs. York were seeing the kids, and they realized how busy we were, and they couldn't do everything, so that we were really helping and picking up the pieces there that one year, and we just said we need to get back to that. So Mindy came and we toured, and I didn't know what she did. I really didn't. Don didn't say what she did. So when I first met her and we're walking around, she said, well, I'm a mental health counselor. I really embraced her. I said, well, I'm very nice to meet you. I'm very pleased. And we just started talking as we're walking around the school, didn't we, Mindy? We were just talking about what she did and how she could affect the school. So it really was a 1-2 punch, and they came together, and we're so happy. I don't believe in coincidences, Kyle. Right. It really was divine intervention. I really believe it when they both set foot in our building. And Don, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, but one thing that Don has, he has a philosophy with his kids. He really wants the kids to know that they're wanted, needed, and loved, and he does that. They all feel that way every time that they're done meeting with him, whether it's at the end of the day, long day, with competition, or even just at the end of a classroom. The kids do feel that, and that was expressed too in the nomination forms. The kids feel that way with Mr. Cochran. So thank you, Don, for bringing that.
Thank you.
What are some things that you do in the classroom to involve the faith with your day-to-day activities?
Well, being in a music classroom is we're pretty fortunate, because a lot of the history of music goes all the way. It starts with our faith, and we obviously play a lot of music from that they would be familiar with, such as the Ave Maria. We always keep that one ready to go.
Sure.
And we pray together. We talk about our faith. We talk about our intentions, but it's not just that. I mean, I think it's more of just really trying to love each other, trying to really be there, genuinely care about each other and about what we're doing when we're in that classroom. The kids really feel like that's kind of like a second home to them because they're there all the time, but they always feel welcome, and it's really neat. After school, before school, they're always there because it's a place that they feel comfortable, a safe place, really,
Yeah. It seems like my general observations have been the music groups in high school tend to form a really tight community as well. Do you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, we're very close. Everywhere I've taught, I've always felt that way. Things started changing, though, when I took on that philosophy of wanted, needed, and loved.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
It happened kind of over time. I had lost a student, and I remember sitting there thinking one night, we were laying down, and I'm just like, I've got to do something more than just teach music. There's got to be something more important out there because, if you were just to stand in a hallway and catch a kid that's walking with their head down and say hi to them, or tell them, let them know that someone actually cares, because you don't know what they're going through at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, man, I wish I had done that. And I went and talked to my principal at the time, and he came out with a memo to all the teachers saying, between classes, you need to be in the halls, greeting the students as they're walking by.
Yeah.
And it kind of stemmed from that, and it developed through a couple other instances that I had as well that we went through when we were down in southern Indiana with some tornadoes that ripped through the town and caused a lot of devastation. But I just feel like, we've got a bigger job here. I mean, music is why I'm hired. That's what we've got to do. But if you genuinely care for the kids feel that, and they care back. The kids, they will react, and they will produce, and they will want to strive to achieve a higher level when they feel that this is a very genuine activity and a very genuine group of people that they're around.
Wow. So awesome. And it's been so nice getting to know you guys and to share your story. I appreciate it. That Mr. and Mrs. Cochran and Mr. Schiffley, thank you for inviting us here to Bishop Dwenger to highlight a little bit of what's going on here. I know you got a lot more that we didn't get to, but thank you so much for this. And we will be back next time with another episode of The Kyle Hyman Show. Until then, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.
Redeemer Radio is proud to celebrate Catholic Schools Week and highlight the good work of our local schools. Our programs, including this broadcast, are possible thanks to the generous support of listeners like you. Redeemer Radio strengthens faithful parents, teachers, and catechists, even our local priests who take the truth of the faith they hear and share it even further. To find out more about Redeemer Radio and our programs, visit redeemerradio.com. Thanks to the Bagel Station in Fort Wayne for providing breakfast for the Bishop Dwenger teachers and staff this morning. Thanks for tuning in to our special Catholic Schools Week coverage this week. You can find all our Catholic Schools Week episodes online at kylehyman.com. And don't miss our special weather-delayed broadcast with St. Jude in South Bend next Friday.